Hey, if you're here, don't forget to subscribe to the Curiosity Wiki YouTube channel. Activate the bell to be the first to see the new videos. In today's video we talk about the most interesting things you didn't know about Russia and its history. At the end of the video, we're waiting for you to tell us what you found most interesting. 1 in 4 Russian men will die before the age of 55, a statistic that does not sound very good. In the UK, only 7% of men die before 55. In the US, the percentage is closer to 10%. Life expectancy for men in the UK, which has fallen slightly recently, is about 79 years. For men in the US, according to recent data from the National Center for Health Statistics, it has just dropped from 76 to 75. But for men in Russia, it's a staggering 64. A worrying figure for such a developed country. Sure, we all know that booze is bad for the liver and other organs when consumed in large quantities, but when vodka starts to drink like water, there's a problem. According to an Oxford University study, the average Russian drinks about 20 liters of vodka a year. Some studies say vodka will end up being the cause of death for nearly 40% of all Russian workers. One expert said, in Russia, it is not considered inappropriate to drink until you can no longer function. It seems to be part of being a man in Russia that you are expected to drink a lot. You all know how hard it was for people in Russia and other parts of the Soviet Union during the Second World War. It is believed that around 27 million Soviet soldiers and civilians died in total, although the number can change depending on which study you read. However, when you consider that all the war-related deaths in the US totaled about 400,000, you can understand how bad it was for the Soviet Union. You've just heard about wealth on an unimaginable scale, but did you know that Moscow has more billionaires per capita than any other city in the world? According to Forbes, in 2021, Beijing and New York have more billionaires, but have more people living there. Hong Kong is also on the list, but it is a city and a special administrative region of China. But there are other cities with a higher concentration of millionaires, including Geneva, San Francisco, and Stockholm. The following sounds like fake news, but we found many resources that say it's the real thing. In schools in Russia, children are sometimes told not to smile, or at least told to smile only when there is a good reason for it. Russians don't tend to smile just to try to be polite. A smile must be genuine, and when you think about it, it's not such a bad idea. If we were to ask you what the distance between Russia and the US is, we're sure that, like everyone else, you would think of thousands of kilometers. In fact, it's 3.8 kilometers. That's because of 2 islands. The big one belongs to Russia and the small one belongs to the USA. Now, the big one has no permanent population, but there's a weather station there and you might find a few border guards. In 1987, an American named Lynn Cox swam from the American island to the Russian island. Russian leader Mikhail Gorbachev said, last summer, a brave American woman named Lynn Cox took just 2 hours to swim from one of our countries to the other. We saw on television how sincere and friendly the meeting between our people and the Americans was when she stepped onto Soviet shores. The first man in space was Russian. His name was Yuri Gagarin, and he was a cosmonaut. But what's the difference between a cosmonaut and an astronaut? The answer is that there is no real difference. Only cosmonauts are trained at the Russian Space Agency and astronauts are trained at NASA or other countries' space agencies. You can imagine that people don't have much time for conversation when they live in the coldest city in the world. This is a place in Siberia called Yakutsk. In July, the temperature can reach about 25 degrees Celsius, but for many months in autumn, winter and spring, the place is freezing, with the temperature often somewhere around minus 40 degrees Celsius. The record low temperature there was minus 65 Celsius. Construction workers don't take days off unless the temperature is particularly unforgiving, and children still go to school unless the temperature drops below minus 55 Celsius. To combat the cold, people wear a lot of fur, which many people around the world have discovered. When one Yakutsk resident was asked what she thought about being criticized for her choice of clothes, she said, they should come and live in Siberia for a few months and then see if they are still so worried about animals. Here you must wear fur to survive. Nothing else keeps you warm. Now let us tell you a very sad story. In the 1930s, more than 6,000 people were removed from their homes and sent to a special settlement in one of the remotest parts of Siberia. It was called Nazino Island. All people who tried to escape were shot. When the people got there, there was little flour to eat and hardly any tools with which to farm. They were left on a cold, deserted island with virtually nothing. Within 13 weeks, 4,000 of them had died. Some of the dead were eaten, and some people killed the weak for their meat. Here is an account of one case of depravity. On the island, there was a guard named Kostya Venikov, a young guy. He fell in love with a girl who had been sent there and courted her. He protected her. One day he had to leave for a while and told one of his comrades, "Take care of her." They didn't. When the guy came back, she was still breathing, but many parts of her were gone because they eat them. That's why this place got the name Cannibal Island. The Soviets managed to keep the story secret for many years, but it finally came out. Now let's get to the positive things about Russia. In 1869, a Russian chemist called Dmitry Mendeleev published what was to be the first periodic table of elements. We all love trams, and we have a Russian called Fyodor Pirotsky to thank for building the first electric tram. If you took a test at school and were asked which country in the world has the most trees, we imagine many of you would start thinking of rainforests and sprawling jungles, but Russia has the most trees in the world. If you've ever spent days on the Siberian Express, you'd have guessed that. In case you were curious, the second most trees are Canada, third is Brazil, and fourth is the USA. Counting trees is a hassle, but it's estimated that Russia has a total of 643 billion trees, covering about 45% of the country's land area. Another natural record Russia holds is having the largest freshwater lake in the world. This is Lake Baikal and holds 23,615.39 cubic kilometers of water. It goes down to a depth of 1,642 meters. This means it holds about 22% of the world's fresh surface water. The Russian Ministry of Science and Higher Education says there are 270 languages and dialects in Russia.